We're enjoying a victory Tuesday after a 49ers Monday Night Football win over the Panthers. The offense wanted to give this game away early, but the defense said, "Over my dead body." I'll be discussing some of the best performances of the night on today's 49K Pod.
You're listening to the 49 Carats podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Tuesday, November 25th. Don't usually do shows on Tuesdays, except for that week. Was that last week when I did? But, we don't have Weston here today. This is going to be our Player of the Week episode, but Weston couldn't make it, so we're going to do this one solo. So probably be a little bit of a shorter show, but we'll have fun regardless. And we'll have fun because we're talking about a 49ers win. Now, there's going to be some moments in this one where we talk about some not good performances, but we're going to end it on a high note, talking about the best performances of the week, nominating for 49K Player of the Week, and you guys in the live chat going to help me vote at the end of it. So make sure you guys stick around. But as it pertains to this game, the 49ers playing against the Panthers on Monday Night Football, well, we do know that Trayvon Mulrig from the Panthers did end up getting suspended for hitting Juwan Jennings in the balls. He gave him a punch there, and the NFL acted swiftly, and he's suspended. He wanted to appeal this. I don't know why. It's like, we got video, dude. Like, we got video. We got close up. You're caught in 4K, 8K maybe, as some of these NFL cameras are. I mean, it's over. It's over. You're suspended. All right, and deservedly so. It's definitely a cheap shot. Good on Juwan Jennings for holding his composure as much as he could. He just certainly had a reaction yesterday, but I mean, man, it's definitely warranted. The NFL did the right thing in suspending Trayvon Mulrig. Just what a bonehead move by him. But I think we want to talk about this game, and of course, you might have tuned into the post-game episode, but we'll, touch on some of those same topics, but maybe slightly different light, little more color to it. Let's first talk about Brock Purdy, right? That's the big one with this offensive performance. I think this is not the first time, certainly, that we've seen him throw 3 interceptions. Last time was in that game against the Ravens in 2023. Of course, that game has come up quite a bit in the last 24 hours. But for me, I think that game comes up a lot because it kind of signaled a bit of a turning point for Brock Purdy, where ever since then, it just felt like he was a little more prone to throwing interceptions. I don't know exactly what it was. Maybe it's the way the Ravens played that game, and did they show the league the blueprint? I don't know. The Ravens were also the best defense in the league at that time, pretty much. So that definitely had something to do with that game. But fast forwarding to Monday Night Football, November 24th of 2025, the Panthers are not the best defense in the league, and Purdy still managed to throw 3 interceptions in this one. So what gives? I mean, there's a lot of context I think you can give in all of this, as you could with most all things, right? And context does matter. I'm not taking context out of it. I think both Brock Purdy, both Kyle Shanahan said, it was the right decision. It was the right read. Just got to drive the football a little bit better. And I think 2 of them were thrown behind the one to, I believe it was Juwan Jennings, and then the one in the end zone targeting Ricky Pearsall. Both of those were behind the intended target. And then, of course, allowed the defender to get in position to get the interception. The other one was just a remarkable play by I believe it was JC Horn, right? That was his second interception of the day. Yeah, so yes, heads up play from him, so credit to him. But I think all in all, what it comes down to for me is that Brock Purdy simply just doesn't have the arm strength to make up for the checks that his arm is wanting to cash. Like he just the decision, yes, it's right, but the execution with the arm is not there. And I don't know if it is having to do with injury. I mean, I got this comment here from Rogers saying that he thinks Purdy is still injured. He's not planting his left foot. The second interception, he had 30 yards of green grass. I mean, I don't know. Like he was. This wasn't like a week 4 against the Jags type of performance where every throw was like floating and it was obvious that he was still hurt. I mean, he has said he's closer to 100%. He's not at 100%, but he's closer to it. Feels like he could do, everything he needs to in order to quarterback and do his job. And I don't think this has to do with the injury, really. I think this has to do with Brock Purdy, one, being a little too aggressive for what his arm can handle. And I also just think that this is a trend now. This is a trend with Brock Purdy. So far this season, he's thrown at least 2 interceptions in 3 of the 4 games that he's played. The only game he didn't have an interception was that game against Arizona, his first game back. Great game for him. Soft landing spot, favorable game script. He didn't have to do too much. He didn't have to do too much in this game either. So that's why it was so odd that just the amount of aggression that he had, which again, we do appreciate that aggression sometimes when those passes are successful, but other times when they're not, you live by it and you die by it with Brock Purdy. And so sometimes you're going to get the good Purdy and sometimes you're going to get the bad Purdy. Last night we got the bad one, but it all comes down to him being aggressive at the end of the day. Like the results just happen to be different. And I think also I was just doing bully ball with Jay, and one thing he said that I've seen other people mention, I think it rings true, is that Brock Purdy doesn't always throw with anticipation. If you think about that 2023 season, how good he was that year, how good the timing of everything was, the anticipation throws were everything. I mean, truly. And if you look at 2024, and yes, there were a lot of factors to the 2024 season, right? A lot of injuries to the supporting cast around Brock Purdy, this, that, and the third. But if you look at that season, some of that anticipation just like has gone away. He's not playing with good timing within the offense, with good rhythm. He was taking too long to throw the football. And I can't help but notice that yesterday, against the Panthers, who have one of the worst, pass rushes in all of football, their pressure rate is the worst. I want to say it is, right? So Brock Purdy had a lot of time to throw and make decisions and survey the field. And sometimes you think that's a good thing, but like, I don't know, was he thinking more than he needed to out there where he's taken a second longer to make that throw? I mean, again, we saw this so much from him last season where he takes that extra second and before you know it, that window is gone, except that he was still throwing it. And yesterday at least, he still threw it, even if he was just a hair late on his throw and thought about it a second longer. But that's why defenders are able to get into position. So look, there are a lot of factors, but all in all, like, I mean, this is on Brock Purdy. Like, I don't, I think we're beyond the point of context being an excuse for Brock Purdy because it's a large enough trend at this time. And again, at least 2 interceptions in 3 of the 4 games he's played. He is not taking care of the football. So whatever reason that may be, and I'm sure every single interception has its own set of context that we can attach to it. But at the end of the day, the result is the same. And the conclusion should be the same. He's putting the ball in harm's way way too long, and this is a trend that cannot continue. Akash point on Twitter tweeted this out, and this is from PFF. So leaders in turnover-worthy play rate in 2025 so far. JJ McCarthy leads. Again, this is not something you want to lead in. With 5.9 turnover-worthy play rate. Spencer Rattler second, 5.4, and Brock Purdy in his small time of starting this season, 5.3%. He ranks third in turnover-worthy play rate. So, yeah, this is not good and something that I think we need to see change from Brock. On passes beyond 10 air yards yesterday, he completed just 1 of 7 of those passes for 5 yards, and of course, all 3 of his picks were attempts beyond 10 yards. So something was not working for Brock Purdy yesterday, and you're hoping for a bounce back, but then you see who's on the schedule next, and it's the Cleveland Browns. Like, it's just not going to get much easier for Brock Purdy, but we'll talk about the Browns a little bit later this week, and of course, we do expect to have the preview show on Friday. Probably not going to do the Thursday show with Wayne this week, but in any case, something's got to change with Brock Purdy. He needs to be more careful with the football. But if you go back to that Ravens game, and Al Sacco on Twitter, kind of pointed this out, that since that Ravens game, in his last 21 games, 23 interceptions thrown from Brock Purdy. That's just not a good ratio. It's not what you want to see. And he has an interception rate of 3.6 over that span. And the 49ers in that span are 10 and 11 as a team. Yesterday, the 49ers did win that game. And I think we have to give credit to what the defense was able to do in order to pick up what the offense, what Brock Purdy lacked in the first half, especially when it just seemed like the offense was intent on giving Carolina every chance to win this game. And yes, Carolina, an awful offense in their own right, but the defense, even with their backs against the wall, almost literally, right? Like playing basically in their own territory, like in that first half with all the interceptions, Panthers with really favorable field position. Even with that, the 49ers defense found a way to only limit them to, I believe, 3 points in the 3 points in the first half. I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible. I have to give a lot of credit, to this defense, Robert Saleh, for what they did. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with some of the other performances, and other things had to go right for this 49ers team to, make this happen and come away with the win. Now, had they played a better team, you probably don't get the same results if your quarterback throws 3 interceptions, but it was a good combination for, going up against a bad offense and the 49ers defense doing what they needed to do. Special teams as well. Special teams contributed to this win. So I think with everyone else kind of picking up the slack, Christian McCaffrey even, I think it balanced everything out, and it made it so the 49ers, still won this game, by 2 scores. So good on them. I mean, these are the types of games the 49ers need to win if they hope to be any sort of contenders. And by contenders, I'm just mean contenders for playoffs. I don't mean contenders for Super Bowl. Don't think they're there, but I think they're definitely now in really favorable position for a playoff spot at 8-4. I mean, the Seahawks are 8-3, so they're right on their tail. Looking at the schedules of both the Rams and the Seahawks, I want to say the Seahawks have a pretty easier schedule, I think, going forward. I want to say the Rams might have a couple of tough games, if I recall. But in any case, as long as the 49ers continue to win, like if they win next week and they beat the Titans, they're going to be in a pretty good spot to make the playoffs when all is said and done, as one of the wild card teams. So they're doing what they need to do. Now, let's go ahead and start nominating our 49K player of the week. And I'm just going to be a little, what's the word? Conservative, I guess, with the amount of players that I nominate this week. I mean, maybe if Weston was here, we'd get a little variance and, maybe he'd have other names to throw in here, but I'm not going to be as generous, I guess. So first things first, I'm going to throw Christian McCaffrey's name in the ring because I think he absolutely does deserve to be nominated for 49K Player of the Week, as he pretty often is, for this team. And playing his former team in the Carolina Panthers, revenge game, if you want to call it that, he delivered and he put the offense on his back when Brock Purdy was struggling. And even in that very first drive, it was just beautiful football of just getting 3-4 yards at a time, just death by 1,000 paper cuts, right, for the Carolina Panthers. And with the Christian McCaffrey, not just ground game, but also him as a pass catcher. He leads the league in carries with 217. He's first in receptions with 81. Mind you, that is over all pass catchers. That is in the NFL, not just among running backs. He is leading in receptions over the likes of Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Who could say that? Who else could say that but Christian McCaffrey? He has 81 receptions on the year, leads the NFL. Incredible. First in total yards. Like we said, he's not a two-man wrecking crew. He's a one-man wrecking crew, but he's doing it on two different fronts, from the pass catching standpoint and the run game standpoint, and together equaling to 1,581 yards on offense. Just incredible stuff. And, there was that cool moment before this game where Roger Craig, greets Christian McCaffrey and, just giving him props on the season, the kind of player he is. Special moment for both of those guys. Roger Craig, of course, very special player in 49ers history, who you could say was the original kind of, two-dimensional back, as Christian McCaffrey is today. McCaffrey now has 796 rushing yards and 785 receiving yards through 12 games this season. Now, if this usage keeps up, he's well within reach of having an 1,000 yard season. And honestly, I hope he gets it, right? For all the concern that we do have about the workload, to just have a running back and, just as a personal feat for McCaffrey to be able to say, I had a 1K season. That's incredible. So rooting for him. And, when he touches the ball, usually good things happen, right? So from a 49ers fan standpoint, I'm also rooting for him to get the ball quite a bit. So, 49ers offense could continue to roll. So I think CMC is going to be one of my nominees this week. And it's not just for what he's doing this whole season. Of course, we all know what he's done this year, but just for what he did in this game specifically, having the ball 24 times on the ground for 89 yards and the rushing touchdown, and then contributing 7 catches for 53 yards. In fact, there was in that very first drive, it was like almost all Christian McCaffrey. That first drive where they scored, it was on the Juwan Jennings touchdown. Christian McCaffrey had 9 touches out of 15 plays and 40 combined yards out of 72 yards in that very first drive. Like, it was 60% Christian McCaffrey on that drive. So, I mean, he did a lot to get the 49ers back on track when it looked really bad for Brock Purdy. You know, good thing you still have Christian McCaffrey to clean some things up and get this offense rolling again. So Christian McCaffrey, one of my nominees for 49K Player of the Week. All right, let's get to the second nominee here, and I'm going to go with Jair Brown. Jair Brown, I think, had his best game of his career. Not just this season, but yeah, I mean, this is the best I've seen him play. I mean, right off the bat, you see him just moving fast to the football, getting tackles and run support, getting involved in pass deflection as well. He had 2 pass breakups in this game, only allowed 2 catches for 15 yards. And of course, the 2 interceptions. The 2 interceptions, I think, were huge. One of those came in the end zone, and it was an awful decision by Bryce Young, right? Awful decision, but it was a play in which Jair Brown did have to make an adjustment to come down with that football. And so for how much this defense and the secondary has struggled with coming down with interceptions in the first half of the season, it really is a welcome change to see, some of these interceptions really actually get caught in the second half so far. Jair Brown contributing to on Sunday. So no touchdowns allowed in his coverage, a 58.3 passer rating when targeted on Sunday, and he had the highest PFF grade of the team not Sunday. I keep saying Sunday. On Monday night's performance, highest grade 91.5 on PFF. So got to give credit to Jair Brown, man. I mean, happy for him. I do call it as I see it. So as he struggled, I called it out, but you got to understand, I always want 49er players to do well. I always want them to turn it around. Happy to see Jair Brown playing with more confidence, playing with more speed. It just looks like he knows where he's supposed to be. And I think that counts for a hell of a lot, especially when you come down with the 2 interceptions. So Jair Brown is going to be my second nominee for this week's 49K Player of the Week. Now, not sure how many of you are watching live, but I am going to ask, if you are, that you meet me in the comments and get a vote in for one of these players here. So we have Christian McCaffrey and Jair Brown. And again, like I said, I was being conservative with the nominations this week, only 2 players, but I feel like that's fair. Like, yes, the 49ers won. We had just 2 players the previous 2 weeks as well, week 11, I believe, and week 10. So actually, no, that's not true. We had more, but this week I picked just 2, one because Weston's not here. Who knows? Maybe he would have had someone else that he would have voted for, but I'm going to go with one of these guys, but it's too early to let you guys know now. So you guys in the comment, let me know who you want to see for 49K Player of the Week for this Week 12 performance. In the meantime, I'm going to give flowers to a couple of players because while I wasn't dishing out nominations for everyone, I do want to acknowledge and give flowers to a couple of guys. And I got to give one to Jair Brown's right-hand man, Malik Mustafa, who I also thought had a really good game and who I also thought was flying to the football, as he often does. But seeing both of those guys just kind of work in tandem together, I think it looked great, so credit to Mustafa for, just being in support of each other, him and Brown. And if the safety group in Brown and Mustafa continue to play like this and they continue to improve, I'm going to feel a hell of a lot better about this 49ers defense, man. I will. And I just hope it translates. A performance like this translates to other games that aren't against, the Carolina Panthers, because the Panthers are bad. But, I feel like I saw some good things that should translate to other games as well. So, yeah, flowers to Malik Mustafa. Always also want to give flowers to George Kittle. Like, the performance wasn't like earth-shattering where I felt like he needed to be nominated, but he did contribute to this one as well. 78 total receiving yards. He was targeted 10 times. I believe he had a drop. Didn't he have a drop at one point? He was targeted 10 times. Had he caught maybe all 10 of the targets, maybe I'd throw him in as a nominee, but this time gonna give him some flowers. And, I'm gonna say I want to give props to the offensive line as well. Give them some flowers for opening up lanes for Christian McCaffrey, especially on the 12-yard run that he had on the left side. Christian McCaffrey virtually untouched on that touchdown run that he had there, and it's because everyone was blocking so phenomenally for him, and you just love to see it. So credit to the offensive line. Good showing on Monday night, and they better have been, because the Panthers had like the worst pressure rate in all the league. So yeah, I mean, but it's nice to see the offensive line just kind of starting to gel, gaining chemistry, and really all they needed was continuity. I mean, if you think about it, the first half of the season, you're dealing with Trent Williams, who was clearly rusty, Dominic Puni, who was clearly still working through that PCL injury, and I think they even said that even just a few weeks ago, that he was still dealing with that. Now it seems like he's better, but then you also had injuries to the left guard position. So guys have been kind of in and out of health and in and out of the lineup, and now for a couple weeks now you've had the same group, and guys are healthier, guys are in game shape, and it's looking better for the offensive line, I want to say. So credit to them, give them flowers. And I'm just going to put on notice Brock Purdy, and on notice doesn't mean like you're fired. It doesn't mean you need to get benched. It just means, hey, dude, like, maybe don't throw interceptions. If I was an NFL quarterback, I would simply not throw interceptions. Maybe try that, Brock. But no, in all seriousness, I just think he needs to be smarter with the football. I think he needs to, it's obvious that it's instinctual for him to be aggressive with the football. And I'm certainly not telling him to think more. I don't want him to think more, but I do maybe want him to be just a little bit more calculated with the throws that he does make. So kind of making that internal quick decision. I mean, one of the big things about Brock is that he's quick at processing, right? So as a quick processor, I don't think that it would be difficult for him to process that maybe this isn't the best throw to make based on my arm strength, right? Like, I don't think I have the arm to rip that one in there and without putting it in harm's way and without the defender having a chance at getting it. Like, those are the kind of things I think he needs to work on. And someone, it was either on KNBR or 95.7 The Game. I don't remember, so apologies, but I just saw like one of the quotes from one of their segments tweeted out, and it was basically just a reminder that Brock Purdy, after last season, said, yeah, I just kind of need to get back to basics, try not to do too much. And everything that we saw in that game against the Panthers looked like Brock Purdy trying to do too much, right? So, like, chill, dude. I mean, I think for a great example of Brock Purdy not trying to do too much and, also not having to do too much was that game against the Cardinals last week. Just kind of operating the offense, giving what the defense gives you, and, you do that. And even in that game, that I understand there were a couple of near picks, but, for the most part, Brock was playing the game that needed to be played and executing the offense the way it needed to be. And, I think more of that, less of trying to do too much, less of, trying to go for the low percentage throw, go for the high percentage throw, let George Kittle catch that ball and get some extra yak and get the first down instead of throwing it 10 or so extra yards to Ricky Pearsall and then getting picked off in the end zone, So just gotta think, just gotta process that a little bit better. But yeah, that's just my on notice. And like I said, I don't expect that things are going to get much easier for Brock Purdy this week, facing the Browns on a short week. Jim Schwartz defense, that's going to be really tough. But if he is just more careful with the football, that might just be enough for the 49ers to win that game, seeing as how you got Shedeur Sanders on the other side. So I don't ask for much. Just take care of the football. All right. Get your last minute votes for 49K Player of the Week in. I'm going to give my vote to let's see here. I want to give it to Jair Brown, which means we're going to need a tiebreaker. So someone watching, just throw in a vote. But I do want to give it to Jair Brown at my vote because I think, like I said, it's a career game. I don't know if he's going to have another performance like this. I know Christian McCaffrey, he will. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. And it wasn't like the most explosive day from CMC, but it's just the sheer fact that they needed to run the football to run the clock and also get the ball out of Purdy's hands. You just spammed the hell out of CMC. But, I want to give it to Jair Brown just because 2 interceptions in one day for a DB. I mean, that's a really good day. So, and again, like just avoiding the Panthers tying up the game when they had the chance to with one of those interceptions. I mean, let's go. Like I'm going to go with Jair Brown. And I don't have let's see if we can get a tiebreaker from Weston here if he texts back in time. That'd be funny. Or if someone in the chat wants to go ahead and give us a tie break. It's a Tuesday on a holiday week. Not a lot of people on, but appreciate all of you being here in any case. And if you haven't yet, make sure you guys like this video and, subscribe to the channel. This might be my last show of the week. Not of the week, but I'm going to do my preview show on Friday, but this will be my last show until Friday because of the holiday. So, make sure you have you hit the notification bell so you know when I go live next. Now, Weston might be asleep at this time. I just realized he's on the East Coast. So, I mean, I'm just gonna give it to Jair Brown for week 12, 49K Player of the Week. Good, memorable performance from him. And yeah, hopefully we get more from him and Mustafa and other guys get involved on the interceptions as well. Hey, quick flower to Upton Stout, who almost had a pick himself, and he had some good support in the run game as well, and then also came really close to getting a sack on a blitz at the very least. I mean, he forced an errant throw for Bryce Young, so credit to him too. But guys, I'll be back on Friday with my preview show. We're gonna dissect this game with KP and go through all the favorable and cautious matchups to watch out for in Cleveland on the road, early body clock game. My goodness. Ooh, and it might rain. God. Okay. But for now, enjoy this Victory Tuesday. Like this video if you haven't yet. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. But for now, folks, have a good rest of your Tuesday night. Peace.